Hi,
Okay.
good evening, or how are you? Okay, so um, let me share my screen first, and then I will get us going. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about coffee. So I love coffee. I drink coffee every day. I have coffee right here with DC Mickey Mouse. So I am excited to talk to you about coffee, something that I love very much. Not everyone loves coffee. Some people don't like coffee. Um, you see here, many people claim coffee inspires them, but as everybody knows, coffee only makes boring people even more boring. This is by a Spanish man said this. I do not agree. Um, and then it says, black as the devil, hot as hell, pure as an angel, sweet as love. Now, I agree with that part of it because I think coffee is has special ability to wake you up and get your morning going and start your day and give you energy that you need for the very first part of your day that you can bring with you all day long. And so coffee has been around for many, many years and has become a very, very important part of American culture. Is there life before coffee? I have to tell you that I don't remember much about my morning before my coffee. Everything, when I wake up in the morning, everything is about getting to my coffee and drinking my coffee. All right, so we're going to talk, like I said, about coffee culture today and how important it is in America and how it is getting very important in China. When I lived in China, I lived in Xi'an, and I loved that city and I loved the food there. And there was a coffee shop. I'm going to say some Chinese words, but my pronunciation is very poor, so forgive me. But we had a street called Shirdalu right beside my college where I taught there at Shanxi Normal University, and the coffee shop there, I loved it. It was very good. Now in America, we have coffee shops just like China, Starbucks, or was it Shinbaku? My again, forgive my pronunciation, but I worked at Starbucks only for a little while, only a few months. This is a friend that worked there too, and this is right before. Her name is Megan, and she now teaches in Xi'an today, or she is going to when they come back. Her name is Megan, and then she, before she left for China, she had this picture and told everyone, "I'm leaving to go to China," when she was working at Starbucks. Um, so, like like you heard in the beginning, we're going to talk. What we're going to talk about is where does coffee come from? How is coffee made, and the art of coffee tasting. I know many of us think coffee just tastes bitter, right? It's just bitter. That is the only flavor that coffee has, but that is not true. And we'll talk about that. And then the difference between coffee and espresso. There is a difference between the two. Coffee and espresso, not the same. And then how to make my favorite espresso drink. And as you can see here, coffee is important in many cultures. Here you have probably Middle Eastern, maybe Turkey culture with coffee. And then down here, I'm sure many of you recognize Chandler here. The entire show, Friends, that I know many of you like to watch, is set in a coffee shop in an apartment mainly, but really in Central Perk, right? So um, it's very important to to U.S. culture. The earliest coffee houses are in Turkey during the 16th century, so that's the 1500s. That's about 500 to 600 years ago. Um, we know that coffee shops started to become popular in Turkey, and that's really where it started. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you can see coffee culture is often seen in American TV. Lots of coffee shops in American television. That is where a lot of people like to meet. Actually, I am meeting someone from where I I go to church, I am meeting someone there tomorrow at a coffee shop to meet about some things. So even I am meeting someone there, and but we have to wear our masks. But I'm used to it. I lived in China. I wear masks all the time in China. But yeah, as you can see, friends here. Um, Always socializing in coffee shops. And I think even in China, to when I lived there, I left China in 2016. So, but when I was there, lots and lots of people, Americans, Chinese, other people met to socialize in coffee shops. A lot of times they have free internet, and that's a big pull too. You may have been to many coffee shops, but not drink a lot of coffee. And a lot of times that's because you don't know what to order. You don't know what to ask for. You don't know what you like when it comes to coffee. And so you may not drink coffee. You may drink, or maybe a smoothie, right? A fruit drink or something else instead of coffee, because you don't know what you like. And that's what I want to help you figure out today. Um, a meeting place, social activities, a first date for coffee is very, very popular. Especially if the girl is not sure that she likes the boy, a coffee date can be very fast and you can leave quickly. It's a lot faster than a dinner date where you have to sit down, order food, eat your meal with a stranger that you may not like. So, coffee is a great way to get in and out quickly, or it's a great way to stay and just enjoy your coffee and enjoy your date. It depends if you like the boy or the girl, or if you don't. Um, my alarm is going off. My apologies. Okay. Um, and so many people work from home. I work from home. That my job is I'm in my office. This is my office at my house. And so I have to have my coffee for the morning to get me started. I do not have to get ready and get into a car and drive to work every day. I get to wake up, brush my teeth, make my coffee, and go to my office very, very close to my room. And I need my coffee for that. Um, a lot of coffee homeowners, house owners claim they try to make their coffee shop feel a little bit like a home. As I mentioned earlier, the coffee shop next to my university, it felt like a home, not a store. It did not feel like a restaurant. It was lots of pillows, soft pillows on the benches, and comfortable chairs. Not every chair had a table. You could just sit down in a big uh, soft chair and drink your coffee and just feel like home. And so that's an important thing, because you want your customers to stay. You don't want them to take their coffee and leave, because if they stay, they'll order other things. They'll order food. They'll order lots of other things. Where does coffee come from? So this is a coffee comes from all over the world. Oh, I forget Yuning. I forget, but there's a province in southern China that's actually has very, very, very good coffee. Cannot remember it. It's very far south, but it is a very rich with coffee. Lots of coffee is grown there, and so because Chinese people drink tea and not coffee, it's usually sent out of China. It's not really kept in China. But every time I see it, which is not very often, when I see coffee from China, I always buy it because it's usually really, really good, and it's always from that southern province. So this is the growing regions. So you can only grow coffee between this far south and this far north. Coffee does not grow up here. This is actually a little bit too far south on the map, but it's pretty accurate. Um, Coffee will not grow up here because it's too cold, and it will not grow here because it's too cold. But right here is a perfect place to grow coffee, and many, many people do grow coffee in this area. You have the Latin American region, right? South America, Central America, even some parts of the United States, but not as good. Hawaii has good coffee because it's so far south. And then you have Africa, Arabia. You see lots of coffee being made here. This is called the Arabian Peninsula. This is a lot of good coffee is here. And then Africa. Africa has very sweet coffee. And then Asia Pacific. This is like Thailand, Vietnam, even some parts of Indonesia, places like that that have really, really good coffee as well. In all of these places, coffee tastes different. It's very, very different flavors. Um, So the three growing regions, so you have four ways to talk about coffee or to identify coffee. You have flavor, body, where it comes from, location, and then food pairing. So flavor, that's easy, right? Flavor is how does it taste to you? And body is it mild, is it light, is it medium, bold, is it extra bold and strong coffee? And then obviously where it comes from, we talked about that. And then food paired, what can you eat with this coffee that goes well together? Sometimes things like nuts will go, like peanuts, things like almonds, different types of nuts will go with coffee. Sometimes sweet breads will go with coffee. So lots of different coffee, lots of different things you can eat with it. So Latin American coffee. Oops, too far. Latin American coffee is a great coffee. It has a lot of, I always say Latin American coffee is the general coffee of the world. If you drink coffee, much of it probably comes from Latin America, especially because I'm in the United States. Much of the coffee I have is from Latin America. It's a balance of different flavors, nuts, chocolate, and a soft spice. The coffee I'm drinking now is from Latin America, but I prefer African coffee. Uh, and then the body is a mild medium body. It's a very medium flavor. It doesn't have, it's not really strong, but it's not really weak either. And so it has a clean finish. A clean finish means when you swallow the coffee, the flavor does not stay in your mouth for very long. And then Latin American coffee, um, this is usually where it comes from, Brazil. So this is Brazil. It's usually in this area of Brazil. Colombia. Colombian coffee is very, very famous coffee. Even Mexico, and then countries throughout this area right here is where it comes from. Um, what you want to eat with Latin American coffee is nuts, muffins, breads. Basically what I said earlier, these are the great things that you can eat with Latin American coffee. And in the United States, this is the most popular. So that is why these things are very popular in the United States. Bread, muffins, these are muffins. A lot of times people will eat blueberry muffins with their coffee because blueberries are sweet and tart and kind of sour. With the muffin, it's very, very good together. Okay, Africa and Arabia. So the flavor for African Arabian coffee is much more sweet, has like a citrus flavor. So citrus is like lemon, lime, oranges, grapefruits. Those are citrus flavors. And then all the coffee from the trees is full of berries and spices. So um, the reason why they taste that way is because when they grow their coffee, it's a lot of times it's grown beside or near orange trees, lemon trees, berries, like, berries. And then they have bees, bees will fly around and pollinate or take stuff from the berries into the coffee beans. And so as they grow, they will take on some of the flavor of berries and oranges and limes and things like that. It has a medium body. It's not too weak or strong. It's very similar to Latin American coffee. It's from Kenya. So here's Kenya. This is Kenya, Rwanda, Ethiopia. This is Ethiopia. Just it comes from this part of Africa. Um, you want to eat things like fruits and chocolate, which is really a good way to enjoy your coffee is with chocolate. And then like cheesecake, maybe not too sweet, but something like cheesecake is a good thing to eat with your coffee. Um, So the flavor for Asia Pacific. So this is the coffee that comes from China, Thailand, around where you are. Is it usually it's earthy? It has a burnt. Burnt is not bad when you talk about coffee. A lot of people like that burnt flavor. Not everyone, but a lot of people do it. It's a very herbal and it's a very dense flavor. Now, the reason why is because do you remember in Africa it's grown next to fruit? In China or in Asia, it's grown next to, I wish you could try to answer this, but it's usually grown next to tea, you know, and a lot of tea has herbal and dense flavors. So because of the bees flying around, they spread the flavor around tea and coffee. It's a very bold, it's a very, very strong coffee from Asia. It's very smooth when you drink it. You finish it, you can still taste it in your mouth. It's a very, very bold drink. So here is where it can be grown here. You see India, Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, Indonesia, a lot of these South Pacific islands. And then Kunming, this is where Chinese grows coffee. I forget. But this is some of the earliest coffee in world history comes from China and Kunming. So China has been doing coffee for a very, very long time. They've just used it differently than us. So with food pairing, you want to do dark chocolate, not milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and desserts, caramel, things like that. How is it made? How do you go from, so this is what a coffee fruit looks like. It looks like a sweet fruit that you could eat, right? But it's not at all sweet. Okay, so basically, what they do is they take the fruit. So you start with the coffee plant. So here's the coffee plant. You harvest it, you process it, you roast it, you grind it, and you package it. And then someone at home makes it. So how do we do that? The coffee plant is a tree. So this is what coffee plants look like. Some coffee plants look a little bit different, but they all pretty much look very similar. There are 60 different kinds of coffee. So not all coffee is the same. Um, and then they have people that harvest it here. It's a very hard thing to harvest. That is why coffee is actually kind of expensive because it takes a lot of manual labor is means hand labor. It has to be done by a person. It cannot be done usually by a machine. But today, sometimes they use machines if they have a big enough farm. Um, they process it. So you see here, they take all these little berries, coffee berries, and they take the inside, the seed out of the berry, and they put it down on the ground, and they do this to it. You may have seen this where you are with corn, right? You'll put the corn kind of even in the road, and people will run it over, right? I've seen that a lot. So similar to that is they will spread this coffee beans all like in a big pile, and they'll spread it, and they'll let the sun stay on it and help it to start making coffee. Um, this could take 1 to 3 weeks, so it takes a long time for it to dry. The sun will dry the bean, and then you roast it. So you get the bean really dry from the sun, and then you cook it. You roast it until it turns this color or close to this color. Um, It just depends on what type of coffee you have, on how long you roast it, or what color the bean turns. This is a big roaster. This is a fancy one. You could do it with very simple. You could do this. You could roast coffee in an oven. I had a friend who would roast coffee at home in his oven. And so it does take a high temperature, 500 degrees, to roast coffee. And then you grind the beans. So as you know, many of you, when you see coffee, it looks like this. It doesn't look like a berry or a different or a light colored bean. It's a dark grounds. These are called grounds. So these are the beans. This is the entire thing. The machine is called a grinder, and these are the grounds down here that we use to make coffee. It just breaks down the coffee so that when you pour water over it, the water can get more of the coffee out. If you pour water over regular beans, it doesn't get the coffee out of the beans. Um, there is a 1 second. I'm upside bed. It's beside the bed. There is a different way of packaging coffee. As many of you have seen this, right? This is Starbucks. My favorite Starbucks is this Christmas blend. Every December, which is very close. Actually, it's probably November now, because everything gets earlier and earlier. But Christmas blend comes out in at Starbucks, and it's one of my favorite ways. It's one of my favorite coffees, but it's very sensitive to the air. Some of you may know that when you hold a bag of coffee, there is a little hole on the bag that lets air in and out. It needs to be protected from the air, so air can come out, so you can grab it and squeeze it and smell the coffee, but you cannot put air into the bag. That is why it's like that, because it's very, very sensitive. It will go bad and it will not taste at all very good. Um, and then coffee tasting. So coffee tasting, when I first worked at Starbucks, I thought all coffee is the same, maybe a little bit stronger or weaker, but it tastes the same. But that is not true. Coffee uh, has very, very different flavors involved. Um, so there are all these ways to taste coffee. Okay. So first, when you taste coffee, you take it like this and you smell it. And you just get a little bit, you taste things with your nose and with your mouth and with your tongue. Okay. So you just taste it. I mean, excuse me, smell it. And then you slurp it. And now this is what slurp sounds like. This may not be a sound that you like, but this is slurping. You can do this like that. Now, the reason why you do the noise is because you are taking air and coffee at the same time. Air will make the coffee stronger taste. You can taste it better when there's air mixed with the coffee. And then you swallow. So you go do this, you smell, slurp, you let it move around in your mouth, and then you swallow. Okay, so that is how you taste coffee. Now, this coffee tastes like all my coffee because I always do it the same way. It has a little bit of milk and coffee, and that is all. No sweet, no sugar, nothing like that. Now, my wife, she likes coffee with lots of milk and sweet cream and whipped cream on top and sugar and more sugar. She loves it sweet. I do not. I like to taste the coffee, not the sugar. Um, but you do that and you move it around on your tongue, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You move it around on your tongue, and the different parts of your tongue will tell you different flavors and different ways that it tastes. And then you pair it with food as well. You see what food complements. So complement means the food and the coffee work well together. If it does not complement, it means the food and the coffee are not good together. Um, there are lots of food that you don't want to eat with coffee. I would not eat noodles with coffee. I don't think that would be a good flavor. They would not complement each other at all. Um, I already walked through this with you pretty much, so I won't make you do that again. All right, so here's what I was telling you about. So when you slurp, when you take a big slurp of coffee, it helps the coffee touch all parts of your tongue. So if you didn't know, which I'm sure many of you know, your tongue has different flavor taste buds. Those are called taste buds on your tongue. And so the front of your tongue is going to taste different than the back of your tongue. So the front of your tongue tastes the sweet part of the of whatever food you're eating. If this part of your tongue kind of a little further back, you taste the salty part of what you eat, and back here sour part, and here is the bitter part. Now, if you've ever eaten something that's very, very sour, have you ever got you like this, where your jaws get hard? It's because your tongue is moving that area of your tongue, and it's making your block up because it controls the rest of your mouth. Even something bitter can do the same thing. And so this is where the tasting of the coffee, it helps when you slurp like that noise, it helps cover your entire tongue so you can pick up all the different flavors. All right. And so when you do swallow, I talked a little bit about this. When you swallow, you just how it feels. And can you still taste the coffee in your mouth, or does it go away quickly? This coffee that I drink, it stays a little bit in my mouth because of the milk. The coffee, if it was just coffee, it would go away fast. But because I put milk in my coffee, it stays in my mouth a little bit. And then we talked about pairing with food. So pair the coffee with food. Um, you take a small bite of something, anything. It could be a berry or it could be a piece of pie. And then how does the coffee flavor change with the food? What new flavors have you discovered? You have to really be practice this to get better at it, because not everyone is good at tasting coffee or tasting anything, because you don't understand how your mouth and tongue work. And so it's very, very it takes time to learn this. It is a skill. There are people who this is their only job, is to taste coffee all day. There are people whose their only job is to taste tea all day. So it's a very, very sounds like a great job to me, but it's also a very important job. It's important job to be able to do this, so that for instance, if you send coffee to America, it's going to have a similar it's going to have a different flavor than this coffee you send to China, because the American people might want a different flavor of coffee than the Chinese people. So or it may be a little bit of everything for both, who knows? So that is a very, very important part of the coffee process. And so here are the different ways you can describe or explain coffee and the flavor of coffee. If it's mild, it would be smooth and fruity, very smooth, easy to drink, goes away quickly once you swallow it, and kind of fruity. Now, no coffee tastes like fruit, okay? That is not the point. You're getting only little hints and little small flavor of fruit in your coffee. And then you have a medium, which can be very complex, meaning that it has flavors from the bold and flavors from the mild part together, and it's balanced. It gives you a little bit of everything, but not a lot of anything. So and then it can also be a little fruity. The medium description of coffee can be very fruity, and then bold or extra bold. This is more the earthy. This is more of the Asian coffee, right? Earthy, intense flavors, and very, very good. A bold, uh, uh, excuse me, an intense or a bold flavor of coffee. You will only usually have one cup. And so if you like to drink coffee all day, you will probably usually drink mild coffee. But if you like an early morning, just a way to wake you up and get you really excited and ready for the day, you'll use a bold or an extra bold coffee so that you can get woken up quickly and have lots of energy. Now, coffee versus espresso. Lots of people don't understand this. So when I went to the little coffee shop in China, I would always say I wanted Mei Sure. Now I know that's not proper pronunciation, and I know it can mean different things, but Mei Sure was ordered when I was there, and that is actually called what we call an Americano, which is actually not English; it's Italian. I love the history of coffee, so I will bore you with the information about why we call it Americano. So in Italy, during World War II, in Italy, American soldiers would go there and ask for coffee. Italy had espresso at the time, some coffee, but usually only espresso. And the American soldiers would drink espresso and say, it's too strong. And I want a large cup, not a small cup of espresso. And so the Italians just put hot water with the espresso to make it fill a larger cup. And they called it Americanos because that's what the Americans would order. So in China, I ordered Americanos too because most of the not all, but a lot of the coffee shops only sold espresso. And so that is why I always ordered the Meisure at Shirdalu because it was the closest thing I could find to just normal coffee. And then I would always get a little milk to go with it. And it was delicious. It really was very, very good. But coffee and espresso, they are not the same. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So, what is the difference between coffee beans and espresso beans? They start the same. They start from a coffee tree or a coffee plant. They're prepared differently. Okay, coffee is made by combining different portion of ground coffee beans in hot water in either a French press, a drip coffee maker, or a percolator. Don't worry about what that means. Basically, coffee is made differently than espresso is. Now, all of these use a filter, and the brewing process takes a few minutes to a half hour for a large pot of coffee. Okay, so that's how you make regular coffee. All right, what is the difference? All right, so this is how espresso is made. Espresso is made 1 to 2 shots at a time. So you do not make a large cup or a large pot of espresso. You only make 2 small shots of espresso. So this glass here is called a shot glass, and you just make 1 to 2 espresso drinks at a time with this. If you go to Starbucks or Shingbaku, I think. I'm always bad at pronouncing that. But if you go there and um, you see them make your drink, if you look, this is what they're doing right here. They're putting 2 glasses, maybe one, underneath this espresso maker, and they pour it into your drink, and they add whatever goes into it to make it, I don't know, a frappuccino or a latte or a cappuccino. Those are the different those are the different espresso drinks, but they all start like this in shot glasses. Um, and it can take 10 to 20 seconds to make. When you, like I said, when you go to Starbucks and you order a drink, they do not just pour it out of a large pot, right? They have to make it fresh. And that is why a lot of people love Starbucks, because they found a way to make fresh drinks really fast. And so this is how they do it. And that is why people love the taste of espresso. Um, so this is what you will see when someone is making an espresso drink. They will put this right here underneath a grinder that grinds it, and then you make it very, very firm in there. You tamp it down. So that's what it means. Tamp it down to make it very hard. And then you run hot water through that very, very um, dense coffee grounds. So it's going to be very dense. Um, so you see here the tightness of the tamping and the time it takes the water to run through the espresso will affect the flavor slightly. So you don't want to do it in 5 seconds and you don't want to do it in 30 seconds. You want to do it between 10 to 20 seconds to let the water go through the coffee, because it takes a different flavor if it goes too fast or too slow. Um, that's very, very important. So when was espresso developed? So remember we talked about World War II. This is Italy, in Milan. This is where espresso began to get made in the early 20th century. So espresso is very young. Coffee is old. Coffee is 500 years old. Espresso is about 100 years old. And so it started off there. And so this is what we talked about: the little cups of espresso, and then the large cups of coffee. Um, so does one shot of espresso have more caffeine than one cup of coffee? No. So it's very small and it has lots and lots of caffeine. Caffeine, this word, caffeine is what makes you awake. That's what gets you moving and gives you energy and excitement, is the caffeine. That's why we drink coffee, to wake up in the mornings. Um, so this actually is half. Excuse me. This does not have as much as this in caffeine. That is why most people order 2 shots of espresso. So it's 1 cup of coffee. 2 shots of espresso in Italian is called a doppio, or double, right? English double. In Italian, doppio, for 2 shots of espresso. And many people order a doppio, just a small cup like this with 2 shots of espresso in it. And that's what they drink. That is what Italians drink very, very often. In Italy, this is a very popular drink. All right, so what's the most popular use? I'm sure this is looking pretty familiar to you now from Starbucks. It's the base for all these drinks, for mochas. So a mocha is a chocolate drink. A latte can be lots of flavors. It's just milk and espresso with flavor. A cappuccino is also milk and espresso with flavor, but the milk is different in cappuccino. It's lighter. Okay, so if you pick up a cappuccino and you pick up a latte, a cappuccino will be light. It will be there's lots of air in the milk, so that makes it a very light drink. I love cappuccinos. If I order espresso instead of coffee, I will ask for a cappuccino, because it's just milk and espresso. You can add flavor, but I don't. I like just milk and espresso. Um, and then you have a macchiato. A macchiato is what you see in this picture here. This is a caramel. So that is caramel, right? See the little caramel drizzle on top? That's to add to the flavor. But a macchiato is milk at the bottom and coffee at top. Macchiato means, in Italian, macchiato means kiss, right? That is what macchiato means. So you add the milk, and then with the 2 shots of espresso you put on top, and you kiss it, macchiato with espresso. So that is why it is called a macchiato. With a cappuccino and a latte, you put the 2 shots of espresso in first and then add the milk. with macchiato, milk first, espresso last. All right, so my favorite drink, and this is not my favorite drink. I use someone else's because my favorite drink is very, very boring, and I don't want to bore you with my favorite drink. So this is Americano. Remember, we talked about the Italians making this for the Americans. You just add espresso and hot water. Very simple. A cappuccino, we talked a little bit about a cappuccino, but this is foam milk, steamed milk, and espresso. So remember we talked about it's heavier than a cappuccino. Excuse me, a cappuccino is lighter than a latte. It's because it has more of this foam milk, which just means more air in the milk, so you can almost pick it up, right? But steamed milk is just hot milk. Um, and then the latte, remember the latte is heavier, right? It's because it's got more steamed milk in it, 10 ounces of steamed milk, which is heavier than a small amount of foam milk. And so you see only 2 ounces of the espresso at the bottom. And then the mocha, we talked about that, right? Chocolate is you put chocolate, steamed milk, and espresso in it, and that makes a mocha. A mocha is very, very sweet. You may not like it because Americans like much sweeter things than Chinese people do, in my experience. So you may or may not like that very much. We talked about the caramel macchiato. And then fair trade coffee. So this is important to know a little bit about. Um, a fair trade coffee is coffee where the people that work on the coffee to create the coffee, to plant the trees, to grow the trees, to get the coffee berries off the trees, to make the beans, all of that. A lot of times people will go and not treat them right, right? They will take away some of their rights and not pay them very well. Well, it's important to know where your coffee comes from so that you know the people that made it are being treated fairly. Uh, so yeah, coffee is big business. Lots and lots of money. 25 million coffee farmers around the world. There are very few large coffee farms. Most coffee farms are very small. Okay, so uh, you have to be careful about where your beans come from because you know what? The truth is, it's hard work to create coffee. And the people that work there to create something that I enjoy, that I love, should be paid according to their hard work and not the word exploited, which means not treated fairly or taking advantage of someone. You should make sure uh, to just consider that as you are buying your coffee. All right, so why do we need fair trade? Fair trade standards for coffee act as safety net against unpredictable market. So if we don't treat the farmers right and we don't pay them and they quit or they can't continue to make coffee, then I don't have coffee anymore. Then I have to do it. If I want coffee, I have to grow it. And so if you make sure that you pay them well and fair trade, meaning that you give them money or something valuable for their coffee, then they can continue to make coffee and I can continue to enjoy it for breakfast. And so it's very important to think about these things, not just with coffee, with everything you buy, to consider the people that create it. Are they being treated fairly? All right. We'll go ahead and open up for questions now. And if you have any questions, or I guess our admin will help you unmute or ask a question for you. But if you have any questions about coffee and you'd like to ask me, I'm ready for questions. All right, so I do see a couple questions in the chat room that I'll address real quick. I did see Lisa ask about cacao beans. That's what chocolate is made from, not coffee. So cacao beans are used for chocolate. And yes, I did work at Starbucks only for a little while, but I was very good at making frappuccinos. You know, the cold drinks. But I didn't make a lot of the what do you call it? The lattes and those drinks because you have to be very fast because there's so many people asking for these drinks that you have to order, you have to make them quickly and get them out to the customer, and I wasn't very fast at that. I'd only been there for a couple of weeks, and so I made the frappuccinos, which are the cold, icy drinks. That was a lot easier, a lot simpler. And I also made the pastries, the food that you eat at Starbucks.
Okay, I think Brandon wants to ask some questions, so I will open his microphone for you.
Okay.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. And you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, I want to ask about the coffee's origination, which
Uh-huh.
is about which was the places that first coffee was originated and what was the first people to come there. I heard some Europeans are immigrating to those countries and just colonization, and they found the coffee and they spread it out. And how does the way they do that?
Thank you. That's a great question, Brandon. So basically, coffee has originated. It's not always easy to know exactly where it originated. We don't really know because it's kind of prehistory, which means it's before we started really writing it down. We've been drinking coffee. The native people of Central America, which is what we would call Mayan, Aztec, people like that, have been drinking coffee and chocolate with together for thousands of years. So we don't know exactly where it come from. And as I mentioned, Kunming, there's been coffee there for thousands of years too. So we don't know where the first people are that did it, but we do know that most people have discovered it. And you're correct. European settlers would colonize different areas, especially like South Pacific, South America, different countries like that, and they discover not only coffee but chocolate too. Coffee and chocolate have a very special relationship, and so because the cacao bean and the coffee bean grow in the same place, and so we discovered that at the same time. And Europeans, myself included, loved it. They thought it was delicious and perfect. And then that's where it started to become popular across the world. So we don't know, we don't have any dates. I mean, I'm sure there are some theories, but we don't have any specific dates on where they come from or where the first people were that drank it. But I imagine most people drank it because you have to think it would have grown naturally wherever it can grow. It was just something that it kind of created itself. And then we started to recognize, oh wait, you can cut it open, roast the bean inside, grind it down, pour water over it, and then drink it, and it's a great drink, right? Somebody figured that out. We don't know exactly when or where though.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome.
Next one will be Angela.
Hi, Angela.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Angela.
Okay, actually, I'm not the kid, I'm a mom.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is, you just mentioned the fair trade coffee. So is there an organization worldwide to implement that to make sure the farmers are treated fairly? Is there any organization?
Yeah, so the easiest way for us as the buyer or the consumer to find out if a coffee is fair trade or not, there is a website. There is like a fair trade organization. There's a website that you could even look up, not just coffee, like everything, especially like jewelry, like diamonds, things like that. They actually do a really good job of finding where people are treated fairly. And Starbucks is if you buy coffee from Starbucks, it's fair trade. And so there's a lot of different places that will have, even on the bag when you buy it from the store, it'll say somewhere on the back of the bag, maybe a little sign that says fair trade or just FT. That is like a small logo that you can see. So that is how you can determine if your coffee is fair trade. And then the website, the fair trade website, you can look up different places that that they would suggest you buy your coffee, or lots of things, not just coffee, all kinds of products. And so that is that's where you can start to find out more information.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela's mom.
Okay, next one will be Jerry.
Hello, teacher. My question is, how do they know the bean can use the bean can
Make coffee?
Yes.
Yes, very good question, Jerry. So these are one of those questions that I don't know anyone has the answer to, Jerry, and that's what makes you so smart, because I don't know that I don't know how they discovered, except for this. People did not have the internet. People did not have smartphones for many years. And so they just learned things by experimenting and trying new things. I do not understand how people created chocolate. I don't understand how people created coffee. All of these things, someone had to say, there's a berry, right, on this tree. They taste it. Oh, it's not very good. But they notice a bean inside and they say, oh, this bean. They taste it. Oh, it's not very good. This is my guess. I do not know, but I guess that what happened is they left it outside and it got really hot. And then they tried it and they said, oh, that's not bad. And then they said, what if we put it in water? And they said, they drank the water and said, nah, not very good, not very bad. And then someone said, what if we break it and then put it in water? And then someone try it and it says, wow, this is delicious, right? So there was probably a process that happened over time. Same thing with tea. When tea first started, it was very, very bitter, right? And then they found a new way to grow it and a new way to put it in water and let it steep in water. So they discovered it through time, through trials, through error, and through finally finding a great way to use it. And today we have different ways to make coffee and different ways that we can make it taste even better. My favorite coffee today is a very new coffee. I don't understand how they make it. I really don't. I wish I had more information, but very expensive, and somehow it tastes all of those very small flavors that you get from coffee, like sweet or fruit or chocolate or nuts. They've made it this one coffee that is very expensive. Those flavors are much bigger and you could taste them much better, but it still tastes like coffee. It's my favorite coffee. And I can't, it's so expensive. My wife will not let me buy it every day.
Sounds interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Bye.
So if you like coffee, just regular coffee, like me, I just like regular coffee, maybe a little bit of milk. That says a lot about you as a person. If you get, that means that you've got a taste for simple types of coffee. Drinkers of these types of coffees are usually responsible, ambitious, and aggressive. Now, I'm not very aggressive, but maybe in a good way aggressive. You're independent and you don't follow the trends, right? A trend is like fashion, right? You do your own fashion, right? You don't follow what everybody else is wearing. And then you know what you like and you stick to it. You're not a follower, you're a leader. So this is what regular coffee drinkers like. So if that's you, this describes who you are. All right, so if you like lattes, if you go to Starbucks and you order a latte, which lots of people order lattes at Starbucks, right? You like comforting, you like the comfortable things, right? You know how to relax, you know how to keep stress from controlling you. You're traditional, usually pretty traditional if you like that. And you find comfort in the things that you know and the things that are familiar to you. You find comfort in that. And then you like routine and you do not like to change things very often. Now this isn't always true for everybody, but this is similar. This is what through lots and lots of study. This is actually science that's telling us this. That's tend to describe someone who's a latte drinker. Now, if you're a mocha drinker, you are a romantic, right? You're mostly a romantic who loves to be in love. You love the sweet taste of the chocolate. You love the romance behind the chocolate, uh, the um, the culture, chocolate culture, right? You're bringing chocolate and coffee together, which has always been a relationship throughout history, right? That's important to you. You find the best in people. You think people are wonderful. You have a caring personality that attracts people to you as well. And you're optimistic, which means you think good will happen to you today. And you're excited to start your day with a sweet drink and continue to have a sweet day following that. You're also very optimistic. Sometimes you can be unreliable. It means that you're a little bit flighty, which means you're hard to find, right? And so mocha drinkers are very romantic. And then iced coffee, which honestly, I like iced coffee. I don't drink it very much, but I do like it when I can. And this is you're the life of the party. You love to live right now, have fun all the time. You have an exciting personality that people love, which is why you are popular. You make most of every moment, though probably don't think about the future as much as you should. And so that is what our iced coffee drinkers will get. And we'll stop there. I mean, that's pretty much it. Just some boring stuff about Starbucks after that. But hey, listen, I am so excited and happy that I got to hang out with you guys this morning. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. I'm going to start my day, start my job now. And so I hope to see some of you again really soon. And thank you so much for having me.